but it's changed a lot. And there was a time when Dick Williams and Gene Mock and Billy Martin and those guys were all taskmasters, Ralph Houck and Hank Bauer, all those great tough guys with iron fists and all that. Well, you can't manage people like that in general nowadays. You have to outsmart them, and you have to think about what motivates them. Tony La Russa was always a terrific manager because he could get into this player's mind, and each individual had to be motivated from a different direction. Whether it was Ricky Henderson or Dave Stewart, it didn't make any difference. He had a method to get the best out of them. That's why I think Joe Maddon is one of the best that we've seen, because every team is different. When he went to Tampa Bay, he didn't do a thing for the first year, just watched his players and kind of called out the ones he didn't think fit. Bobby Cox has done the same thing for years. If you look at the Atlanta roster, guys would go there and play for a year, and then they'd be gone. And they might be great players, but they weren't Bobby Cox's type of players. So you have to have guys that understand the team is first. I mean, it's a very old cliche, but you have to play for the name on the front, not the name on the back of your uniform. But with Joe Maddon, he takes every individual and figures out a way to motivate them. And they brought Dexter Fowler back this spring. Fowler had signed a deal with the Orioles. He had agreed to a deal with the Orioles and then got cold feet, backed out of it. The Cubs signed him. Joe Maddon has a team meeting on the field during spring training and walks out Fowler from the sidelines and reintroduces him to the team as the guy they just signed. But all of those little things he does motivates the players, and it's pretty special. You just have to get into their heads and figure out, you can't fine them, you can't send them to the minor leagues, you can't punish them. You have to make sure they understand how to be a part of a team.
So many different techniques that a manager can use. What about Gibby in terms of his?
Gibby gets a lot of criticism. He doesn't. You don't see a lot of the things he's done, but I think what he's done this year, he's managed the bullpen very well, he's managed the pitching staff very well, and he's managed the older players very well. The Blue Jays are the oldest team in the division, but he's kept Donaldson in the DH spot. Bautista's dealt with injuries all year long. Eddie hasn't missed a game because he's been managed properly between playing first and DH. But the bullpen and the pitching staff, he's done a terrific job with. I mean, nobody expected this Blue Jays team to be near the top of the pitching all year long, and he's done that. And he's just a guy that lets them go about their business. There's a lot of things that, he's even critical of. Guys don't run to first base hard. Guys don't, they hit a routine ground ball, they jog up to first base. Well, now it's become epidemic. You can't change it now. You've let it go on for so long that, it'd be difficult to change. And then if you tell Devin Travis to run, Kevin Pillar, you got to run well. Eddie doesn't run, and Jose doesn't run. So it's all about how you set the initial foundation. When you see the Red Sox play, that little bitty guy at second base, he's got a big sledgehammer, and if anybody gets out of place, Dustin Pedroia straightens him out. And that's what sets the tone. And that's when it's the best situation for managers, when a player doesn't. Because then that's where all the pressure comes from.
Do you not think he's given that Russell Martin that responsibility to a point?
Russell Martin? Yeah. Martin has been, Tulowitzki's more now this year in his second year, but they both do it very subtly. They're not cheerleaders, and kind of like the way Jeter did it. Right. Pedroia, he'll scream in your face. He's 5'8", and he's always pointing up to David Ortiz like this.
Jesus. Wouldn't want that job.